Now, you may remember, if you were watching yesterday, that Susanna Pierce spoke about the plight of freelancers, self-employed, 3 million people in the UK now known as the excluded who've fallen through the cracks, as many of them are unable to access financial support from the government.
We were inundated with responses from people who found themselves in the same situation, and it came up at Prime Minister's questions. When the leader of the opposition, Keir Starmer, asked the Prime Minister what he'd like to say to the millions of excluded.
This week on LBC, I spoke to a self-employed photographer called Chris. He said to me, our industry's been devastated. There's 3 million of us that have fallen through the cracks. Our businesses are falling, absolutely falling, and crashing each day. He asked me to raise that with the Chancellor. I'll do the next best thing. What would the Prime Minister say to Chris and millions like him who are desperately waiting for the Chancellor to address this injustice?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what I would say to Chris and what I say to the right honourable gentleman and to the whole country is the best way to get his job working again, the best way to get this country back on its feet is to continue on the path that we are of driving the virus down.
Well, we can talk to Chris now and find out how the answer from the Prime Minister went down.
Are you shaking your head, Chris?
Chris, you were the caller to Sir Keir Starmer on LBC. We featured a number of the cases yesterday on Good Morning Britain. It's finally, it seems, getting some attention. What did you make of what Boris Johnson said?
The best answer is to get my job together. I just don't get that. That's not an answer. I've been trying to get my job together since March. I've not been able to. 3 million others haven't been able to. Company directors, people not in profit, people over profit, new self-employed, limited company directors, PAYE new starts, PAYE freelancers. We're all in the same boat. There's 3 million of us that cannot get access to government funds. And we desperately need that. And for that answer, it was just an absolute farce. It was, in my opinion, a complete waste of time.
Chris, did you know that Keir Starmer was going to bring you up in PMQs?
He pledged it on LBC, which was great. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And, yeah, it was great to hear him actually bring it up. But he was pretty much shoved to the side with that non-answer.
It's the frustration part of this, isn't it? And I think it's the frustration that we all see, is that Keir Starmer puts the question to the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister just bats it away without really acknowledging what it is that you're trying to get any sort of traction. And then Keir Starmer doesn't get a chance to go back and say, no, let's give him a proper answer, not just a bit of PR spin. Because I don't think... I've got lots of my friends that are in the same position as you, freelancers, self-employed, who are going to ruthless ends to make sure COVID protocols within what they're trying to do are done to the T, because they have to do everything they can to try and keep themselves working. And to see the frustration that you're all facing, the difficulties, the financial ruin, is absolutely heartbreaking.
Yeah, and, you know, what us ourselves at Excluded UK, we're trying to get Mr Sunak to come to the table. We're not asking for anything different. We want equal disparity for those that have been able to access funds. We're looking for like an immediate sort of emergency fund, and hopefully with immediate access for all the people that have been excluded. As I said, I mean, there's even people that are PAYE new starts. There are people who are using their savings and pensions. They've been excluded for using savings and pensions. Bereavement and care allowance people are also being excluded. There's a huge list right across the board. We need some...
The support scheme that is in place that is supposed to help you is the self-employed income support scheme, which has been in place since March. Are you not... I mean, what are the reasons you, as a photographer, wedding photographer, and as we know, you can't get work covering weddings at the moment, why can't you get access to that money?
So 3 years ago, I had an industrial accident. I actually got a settlement. I used every single penny of that to go from part-time working from home to actually building a state-of-the-art studio. I invested in my business 3 years ago. And because of that, I showed a loss, or I carried over a loss, which actually fell into the criteria for not being then allowed to access the SEIS fund.
Right.
That's been 3 payments now, I believe, and nothing.
I wonder what you make of this, because this stands out to me as a fact. The government has spent £13.7 billion on that scheme, the self-employed income support scheme, since March, which is around twice as much per person, apparently, as it has on furlough. But the help has been poorly targeted, apparently. According to the Resolution Foundation, 435,000 people were able to claim grants of 80% of their usual earnings, even though they hadn't lost any income during the crisis. So money appears to be going to people who are funding themselves perfectly well and haven't lost income, and it's not going to people like you, and you have no income.
Exactly. And like I say, limited companies, sole directors, like even people on maternity and adoption holidays now are all being excluded from this. And yet, like you say, there are people who are going on holidays now and enjoying the time. Like I say, we don't want any separate disparity. We want equal disparity right across the board for people, and we'd love to get an emergency fund. Excluded UK have been fighting for this, but we just cannot get the message across to the right people. We tried to get the message across, but obviously it was cold-shouldered yesterday.
We have lots of people getting in touch, Chris, while you're talking to us. Well, the interesting thing is a lot of you who are getting in touch with us talk about the timing of this, and how poor the timing was for them personally. Mrs. Wedderburn's just put, I was employed as a UK sales manager, basic pay of £35,000 a year. I was made redundant, went self-employed, was doing well, but now, because of timing, I'm part of that excluded group. I'm not entitled to anything. Lee says, I'm one of those excluded. Newly self-employed, freelance coach driver, ineligible for the payments. I'm not known to HMRC, even though I've got a full year's PAYE tax behind me. Punished for bad timing, not eligible for universal credit, as my wife is receiving maternity pay. Roger says, 30 great years as an event professor for freelance from 2019, no work since March, no pipeline, no support, no local grants, university credit stopped as COVID restrictions no longer apply. Tried so many jobs applications, mostly he's overqualified because of his age as well.
Well, I mean, as we say, it is a disparate group because there are multiple reasons why you're not eligible for support. But, you know, as we said yesterday and as we say this morning, we'll stay on this. You know, the Labour leader is now picking this up and running with it. I know that, you know, they've been on it for a while, but we need to get answers from the Chancellor. We have had a statement from the Treasury. Our self-employment income support scheme is one of the most generous in the world and has helped more than 2.7 million people so far. Those who do not qualify are able to access our wide range of other support, including income tax deferrals, support for renters, access to mortgage holidays, business rates relief and grants and bounce-back loans, which provide support that is interest-free for the first 12 months. Where there have been exclusions, these have been for reasons such as targeting support to low earners or to avoid unacceptable fraud. What do you make of that, Chris?
It's the same answer that everyone's been getting. It's not broad, it's not helping everyone. No. There are people falling through the cracks. Like I say, Excluded UK have been fighting for this over and over and over again. They've had 3 opportunities to actually look at this. You know, people that are on furlough are not being told to get a loan to keep themselves going. We are the backbone of this economy. You know, even Boris Johnson said yesterday he's helped 2.6 million people, self-employed people. Well, there's 5 million self-employed, so automatically there's a £2.4 million gap. Yeah. So where is the help for those people?
Chris, I know this is difficult, but there was some positive news earlier in the week when we heard that the vaccine's coming and potentially things could get back to normal in the spring. Whether that happens or not, we're not sure yet. How are you staying positive? How are you staying on top of things? And what are you hoping is going to happen?
Well, I'm trying to diversify my business. I mean, I'm sticking to the rules. That's the one thing. It's painful for me to have to turn away clients and business, but the rules are the rules, and the more we stick to it, hopefully the quicker this will be. But it is extremely painful, and with no support and not being able to take business, it's a really, really tough decision. But if we had the help there, if we had the assistance there, we'd be, you know, obviously in a better place.
Yeah, well, let's hope there is light at the end of the tunnel. We'd love to talk to the Chancellor about what's happening to you and the rest of those who are excluded from help. But, of course, as we know, we are hurtling towards 200 days of a government boycott of Good Morning Britain. So I'm afraid we can't on your behalf, Chris, but, you know, good luck. And you're absolutely right. Sticking to the rules hopefully will mean that the crisis comes to an end sooner. But, you know, it's tough. We understand it's tough for you guys. And
well, hopefully you're starting to get a bit more traction now as well, Chris. Now that Keir Starmer has certainly sort of brought it up in PMQs and Boris Johnson batting it away like he did, which you're clearly doing. I mean, that's the point, isn't it? He was saying we've got to stick to the rules. That's exactly what you're doing to make sure we get past this.
Thanks for being with us, Chris, and all the very best.
Thank you.
And thank you for all the messages. I mean, they're still absolutely pouring in. Steve says, I started lockdown with £80,000 in the bank, a decent job and no debt. Today I'm out of work, a £12,000 credit card debt and nothing in the bank. Kaylee says, my husband's in the same situation. He's self-employed, but hasn't been self-employed long enough to use the self-employment government help. We just want to pay our mortgage. We just want to put food on the table.